Ready? Welcome to Speak the Truth in Love with Clint Day from St. Simon's Island, Georgia on WCGA 1100 AM, where we do speak the truth in love based on Ephesians 4:15. In today's woke PC culture, there are many forces that want to stop free speech, especially for people of faith. Good men and women must be willing to stand up for their faith and be salt and light to preserve our freedom. True freedom comes from faith in Jesus Christ. In John 8:32, God's word says, "The truth will set you free."
Amen.
And today I welcome you, friends, and I'd like to welcome a great friend, Debbie Brown. Debbie, great to have you here today.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Well, Debbie, tell us about your career. One of the things that we're going to talk about in the conversation is the disc profile, which I have found to be a great tool. Before we get into that, I just wanted to ask you, tell us about your background and kind of what brought you to the Golden Isles.
What brought me to the Golden Isles? I was born in Atlanta and lived in Atlanta. I had to move to Americus, Georgia, which was kind of a setback for me when I was in the 10th grade, and it seemed like a really bad thing to me, and yet I met my husband there.
Wow.
And when I was 15.
And that's Larry.
That's Larry. Mm-hmm. And we got married. I was 18.
Wow.
And he was 20. And then we moved to Auburn so he could go to school.
Yes.
I became a secretary so I could work so he could go to school. And we lived in Auburn a couple of years, and then he got a job in Charleston. And all this time I was working in corporate America. Mm-hmm. And I loved it. I was in logistics before we even said the word logistics.
Yes. Wow.
And so I loved my work, and I got more and more involved in my work, but then he was ready to move again. We went to Charleston. I worked for a chemical company. And then another setback, he wanted to go to Clemson to go to school.
Yes.
And so I said, okay, I'll one more time. And so there I was in a classroom, and Ron Barrett, I'll never forget it, 1984, said, "You are a teacher." Wow. When I did a presentation. Yes. One sentence, one man.
Wow.
Well, that's it,
That's it.
And I graduated, got my master's, and then...
From Clemson.
Mm-hmm. And then we moved to Gainesville, Florida, mm-hmm. which a lot of people here don't like.
Absolutely. That's true.
And I went to work at Santa Fe College. So I left the corporate world. Never in a million years did I think I would go into teaching. But that one man said one thing, mm-hmm. Changed my life. And so then... my husband came home one day and said he wanted to move to Raleigh, and I said, okay, and then I taught at NC State for 18 years.
Fantastic. That's incredible.
Yeah.
So what did you teach at NC State?
I started out organizational behavior and human resources, and I ended up being pretty much in the auditorium for Intro to Business.
Okay, so the business school at NC State, that's where you were.
That's where I was.
And you became a professor then?
I never got I enrolled in my PhD program one day.
Gotcha.
And I quit.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But I had a master's degree with professional qualification.
Well, and you actually worked in the field.
Exactly.
I know I went to Florida State. I graduated with a hospitality degree. Of course, grew up in the Days Inn family.
One of the best ones.
Well, I appreciate it. It was one of the best in the country.
Yes.
And every student that comes out of there gets a job. If they want a job, they've got them immediately. It's a smaller school. It's not as big as UCF. UCS has thousands of students. We have several hundred. But when I went there, again, I went there for all the right reasons, right? That was one of the reasons to go to Florida State. But it really did. I always loved a professor that had hands-on. When I went to a marketing class in the business school and the guy goes, "Yeah, I've been a professor my entire career. I'm going to tell you how to market a company," I'd be like, I really don't want to necessarily hear from you. I respect you. I have to take this class. I'll work hard in it. But I really like those professors that had been in the hospitality business, been at the hotel, been in the restaurants, been in whatever kind of business they were in, because they could a real estate business in a lot of ways too. And I just always could relate to them better. I felt better from them. And I gave them more credibility because they'd been in the world. Mm-hmm. They'd been in the business world.
I agree.
And I totally understand that. So again, when you think about what you were teaching at that time, I know a big part of probably what you were learning, especially in human resources, was the fact that we all have different kind of personalities.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so help the people understand what a disc profile is.
Okay. The DISC profile is a behavioral profile personality system, and it was developed over 100 years ago. And there are a lot of different ones,
Sure.
that are like that. And this is how you use your energy, and it's simple. And that's why businesses like it.
Right.
I mean, over a million people a year take it in training
Right.
today.
Okay.
Yeah. And what you do is you take a questionnaire and you get a profile, D, I, S, or C, and then there's information there that helps you learn how to appreciate what you are like, but also what people are like that aren't like you.
Absolutely. Well, why do you think there's such resistance to understand how somebody else is?
That's a great question. I don't know. It's just our own way of doing things. It just seems like other people are wrong,
Okay.
and that they have the wrong perspective.
Right. They can't see it the way I do. So
That's right.
something's wrong with them. Why don't you see it the way I see it? But again, tell us what the DISC profile is, the DISC. What do those stand for?
Okay, the D is dominant, and this is a person who is take charge, leads from the front, tells everybody what to do, and is saying, trust me all the time. I know what I'm doing. And the I is influencing, inspirational, and they're the ones that can talk people into things, and they like to be out front.
Salesman, more or less.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
They like
If you
to
have a
sell.
salesman that's an I but not a D, sometimes they have trouble closing the deal.
Gotcha. Okay.
They keep talking.
Okay, but let's go on. C.
The C is conscientious compliant. They follow the rules. They know the protocol. They are very analytical.
So like an accountant.
Oh, yeah. They love that.
That's right.
You got to have some of that.
You want them to follow the rules when they're doing your taxes.
Absolutely.
That's for dang sure.
And they like it.
That's right.
Accounting makes me sad.
Absolutely. It's very hard. The detail is so hard. Thank God for people that can do it.
That's
for
right.
sure.
And the S is steady, and it's also going to be somebody that's steadfast and loyal, and they like for things to stay the same. They don't like to change. And so you have somebody that's a high S, and you are a D, you're going to be going, let's do this and let's do that. And the S is just their head spinning around.
Yes. Well, and the C's got to be careful. A lot of times I've heard it's compliant too, where they can get kind of run over because they just want to please people so much that they can just say, I want to please, I want to please, I want to please. In the meantime, they don't realize they're getting kind of abused with their time or being asked to do too much.
That's more to do with the S.
Okay, so more the S.
Yes,
Okay, gotcha.
the S.
All right.
The C will just keep saying again and again, the right thing to do is this.
Okay.
They will. But the S is the one that doesn't speak up for themselves a lot of times.
Okay, good.
Okay.
So now that C, when they're being compliant, they're going along with everything. At what point do you see people really kind of exploding, almost becoming a volcano? Who can kind of be that way?
Well, all of them can
Yeah.
a little bit when you
Sure.
push them too hard,
Sure.
but a lot of times the S and the C, they want to follow the protocol. They respect the ladder, the authority,
Right.
and and so they try to do the right thing and be the right person all the time. And so as a result of that, sometimes they throw a golf club.
Okay, exactly.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So again, then what is the process of that as a person? If you're on a high S or high C, what should they really be thinking about learning to do? Maybe that a D would respond differently to being pressured to do something they don't really want to do. They're being asked to come to the party. They really don't want to do it, or go to the football. They're going somewhere. They really don't want to do it at their heart. They're almost kind of being peer pressured into it. What can they do to be willing to stand up against it and say, look, I just don't want to do that?
Right. And I have a cheat sheet, I call it, okay, for each of the ones, the D, I, S, and C. And it's a little paragraph that tells you this is how you talk to them so they will listen to you.
Right.
And some people tell me, hey, that's manipulative. And I say, well, when you go to Italy and you learn Italian, is that manipulative?
That's
Because
right.
it's not. It's a way to get through to that person. And so that's what you have to do. You learn to speak their language in the short term because a D, for instance, really respects you more if you stand up to them.
Right.
And so if you know that and you're an S or a C and you know and you tell the C, well, this is the right thing to do.
Yes.
And they speak in that word, trust me, I've got the data. This is the result you want. And that D's and I's want a result message.
Right.
And S and C's want a process answer.
Okay.
And so you learn to say, this is what you're going to accomplish if I cannot come to the party tonight and I
Right.
can do something else.
Right. Well, what are the reasons? Why would somebody want to know what someone else is in their personality, not only their own, but someone else's?
Well, to stay married.
Oh, no.
To communicate better with your children.
Yes. That's good.
And to build a better team.
That's right. And then be in that situation where obviously you're accomplishing as much as you can. And again, that peace, right, that comes with those accomplishments. Again, I think about Eric Little's role in Chariots of Fire. When I run, I feel God's pleasure. So that purpose is just so important, and I say that quite often, and I just want to encourage people out there. So we're going to take a quick break. This is Clint Day with Speak the Truth in Love from 1100 a.m. We'll be right back. All right, good job.
We doing all right?
We're doing great.
Okay.
Do you have that sheet?
I don't
Okay, that's good. Next time. We'll get it next time. That's good. All right, ready? Welcome back to Speak Truth and Love with Clint Day from St. Simon's Island, Georgia, 1100 a.m. I'm great to be with Debbie Brown today, and we're talking about the disc profile. So let's go more into detail of the D. Tell me about what a D is.
Okay. A D is somebody who, if you're in a car and you say, let's go to eat, and there's four of you in there, and one of them's a D, they'll say, we're going to go eat at so-and-so. They just make the decisions. They trust me. I've been there. It's the best place. Okay. That's the way a D reacts. If there is a vacuum in authority or somebody in charge, they will step into it, no matter what their level. And so they just take over.
Right.
And they don't back down. They win at all cost.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
And what else? What else about a D?
A D. Okay, you're particularly interested in that.
I am.
A D also is results oriented. They want to move very quickly. They like to do something, and before everybody else is even all engaged, they're ready to move on to the next thing.
Yes.
So when you're under authority of a D, you find yourself racing to catch up with them.
Gotcha.
And they'll just tell you what they think. They'll say, that's stupid. I don't agree with that. And then let's go have lunch. What do you think?
Right.
And so, and the others don't understand that that's just the way they talk. They don't hold on to it or any of that. They're over it. We have words, and we're two Ds. We're fine right after that.
Yes.
We can move on.
Move on, yes. And of course, I know in my life, like I said, when I first took the disc profile, I was off the chart D. It was very, very high, and I was interested when we recently took it. And in our middle school group of leaders there at our church, I didn't even know that's one of the things you knew how to do, and I found out you had done it for the whole church. And so when I took it, I was surprised how my D had calmed down and other things had come up the last 20 years. So is that kind of normal?
The research, there's about 3 different ways they look at that, and one says you become who you are at 4 and you're that forever. Okay. Another one says there are seasons of life,
Mm-hmm.
and you can be different in each one, especially retirement versus job,
Correct.
as you can imagine.
Right.
And some people are different socially, at work, and at home. And then some people are different under stress. So when you were working in high stress jobs, you could have been really stressed, and that stress profile would be high. But you're retired, you get to do what you want to do, then you would present differently.
Yes.
So that could be several things.
Okay. Well, I know in my case, again, when I was, earlier career, if you would, every time I turned around, I was asking to be put on a board.
Mm-hmm.
I was asked to be a deacon in the church. I was asked to be the chairman of this committee, the chairman of that committee. And it was a very, good time. I've enjoyed where I could say yes to, didn't know how to say no like I probably should have. And actually, one of the comments you made, even in our group and your general observations of D's, was very often, like you say, divorce, like very often, you talked about having heart attack or having high blood pressure.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, man, I just go down every one of those lists. That's just what I did. And I was intrigued, though, by the fact you didn't really see that in me.
No, I do not.
You were shocked. And I was like, because I'm up there, I guess a lot of our interaction.
I've known you a while.
Yeah, and just around the church and talking, and we're going to pray, and we're going to pray together, or whatever. And you had not seen that in me. And it was interesting that in our group, from me, just observing, only one person said, I can see that. One young lady from the school that's in hospitality.
Yes.
And she commented on that, and I was intrigued by that. I was like, I feel like, to be most like Jesus, right? You want to be them all, right?
Well, he was the only one.
That's it. That's what I'm
That's
saying.
right.
But to be most like Jesus is what I'm saying. I'm trying to get there, right? I mean, that's our goal, right? To let him be our model and follow him. And so that's what I was intrigued by. That's why I felt like, the spiritual growth, the pain God's allowed me to go through, the challenges, the hurt, having this muscle disease and just being forced to, people talk about walking with Jesus. I get to roll with Jesus, which is a great thing. I mean, it's like rock and roll, but, I just roll. I mean, just keep going and, trust the rock, right? But the rock of Jesus, that is. But I mean, I'm always amazed at just how God, refines us and whittles away, takes those rough edges of the corners away, and does that sandpapering. And as painful as it is, there's a lot of joy in that, because again, when you're a high D, you just can't. You don't even pay attention. I don't even know what your feelings are, and quite frankly, I don't care.
Exactly.
And I don't even mean to be that way, but that's the way I am. And I've loved the fact that God's refined that and said, you're going to start caring about people more. You're going to find out they really do have interesting stories. And that's one thing I love, is to hear somebody's story.
Isn't that great?
I have really been transformed to say, okay, I am ready to sit down and really listen to what you've been through. And of course, that comes from training in life coaching, where interest in life coaching. And so I've been amazed. And that's one thing that helped me even write a book called A Place of Restoration. That refining that God allows in our lives to lead us to the place he wants us to be. And again, that's one reason I love the DISC profile, because it helps you identify your giftedness, help you understand your strengths and weaknesses, and then helps you define where God wants you to go in your purpose, right?
That's exactly right. And plus to recognize the importance of the others.
Yes.
Instead of thinking they're bad.
Yes.
Or wrong. Yeah.
Yeah. Or again, I totally understand that. I can look at someone plugging in a plug, and I will in my head go, because of my physical limitations, sometimes it's a challenge for me. Literally the physical act, and I'll be just going, just put the thing in there,
Oh, now I see your D.
Yes. Just put it in there. Why does it take 15 minutes to put a plug in? And again, it's just like, I have to guard myself, because again, one particular person is a CNA that works with me. She is absolutely an SC, totally an SC, which is really perfect for a CNA.
Yes.
Okay, for someone that wants to help and is a giver and loves people, and everything's good, everything's fine. I'm not really in a hurry, but I'm going to get it right. It's going to be right. You're going to be well taken care of.
I want that right person
Absolutely,
in my
absolutely.
medical health.
Totally. And so, but again, it's, sometimes you get frustrated by, okay, we're cooking a meal. How do you start with cooking a meal? I start with what takes the longest. That's what I start with in the hospitality business, right?
Oh, yeah,
But
sure.
but another person would go, I'll just start. And again, the logic for me comes in, and I can get myself a little frustrated. So
A
let's
little?
let's go.
Have you thrown
Just
the
a
golf
little,
club?
just a little. If I could, I probably would.
A spatula.
I definitely don't want the camera in my house to tell my whole story each day. That's for sure.
Me either. Wow.
But anyway, how about a high eye?
High eye
Real quick, and then we'll take a break.
is fun, fun, fun.
Absolutely.
Excited, excited,
Absolutely.
excited.
You want them at a party.
Yes, you do.
You want to make sure there are plenty of eyes at your party. All right, this is Clint Day with Speak the Truth in Love. We'll be right back. 3 7s, okay? Welcome back to Speak the Truth in Love with Clint Day from St. Simon's Island, Georgia. I'm here today with Debbie Brown, and we're talking about different personality types. So tell me, what are you?
What am I? I am an IC.
Gotcha.
And CIs and ICs are most likely to choose teaching.
Yes. Wow. Okay.
Okay, because I could stand up on that stage at NC State, talk to 350 students, but I also got my grades in on time.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew the process that the college was asking me to do, and so it was perfect for me.
That's good.
Yeah.
And so you had the spiritual gift of teaching, obviously. Did you recognize that when you take the inventory on your spiritual gifts? Did you see the same thing?
Sometimes your talent or skill is not a spiritual gift. You can have some, because I had a friend who was she was my mentor. She was a teacher, and she didn't come up as a spiritual gift of teaching.
Wow.
Yeah, but
Okay.
I did. And
Okay.
so I've kind of always felt like teaching was my ministry.
Mm-hmm.
I tried to help those kids
Right.
find a place, and that was a big part of what I did.
Sure.
And connected with them. And she didn't do that. She
Right.
was just a great teacher.
Exactly. Now, and Larry, he seems to be very outgoing, but he's obviously a professor too, getting the degrees. He loved school and did well in school. So tell me, what is he?
He is a DS at home, a DC at work.
Gotcha.
He worked for the federal government,
Okay.
and he was a scientist.
Absolutely.
Got to be a DC to
Yes.
survive as long as he
Absolutely.
did. Yeah.
A lot of politics involved with that, I'm sure.
A lot of politics.
A lot of politics, and sometimes bureaucracy, I'm sure.
Yes.
For sure, that you have to the personalities of their leadership styles, and that you have to put up with, because it's not like a certain private businesses you can just say, I'm going to go somewhere else, and you have to work through that. I'm sure that's interesting.
Yeah,
Now-
because every time there was a new Secretary of Agriculture, everything changed.
Correct.
And people wanted their own people in there.
Absolutely.
So it was interesting.
Yes, that's good. Now, and again, though, as a former state senator, the one thing that I remember very clearly when I would be talking to a so-called bureaucrat, right, within the government, and that could be very positive too. I don't mean to be negative with that, but you would be talking to them, and they'd be sitting there going, yeah, 4 to 6, maybe 8 years, you'll be gone. I'll still be here, and I'm going to do it exactly the way I want to get it done. And so, okay, I accept that reality. That's my reality, and but whatever. And it's just interesting though how we do learn so much from other people if we're really willing. Again, those high D's. And they can sit back and really listen to someone's story. And again, I just love that part. Okay, now going back to the eye, you want to make sure they're coming to a party, right?
Yep.
You want to make sure when you
fun. They're going to make it
want to
fun.
have fun. They're going to make it fun. I get jealous of high eyes a lot of times because I wish I could think of the things they can talk about or the funny things they can say. So sometimes I want to make sure I come prepared, have a few lines I can say, or some stupid joke or something that from the book that I can find or whatever. I mean, I want to be prepared, right? I want to try to learn how to show some more of that I can have a good time. Mm-hmm. Because D's don't seem to like to have their fun is just working. I mean, that's a blast to them.
They can be fun too.
But getting things done, I want to get things done. I have a purpose in that.
Yeah, moving forward.
Correct, moving forward. And I mean, I had a Christmas party at my house last night. And
You didn't invite me.
it was our prayer group on Monday night. Come join us anytime. But anyway, I had another lady that came in that she had prepared a lot of the food, and I got to admit to you, I mean, we got the house set up. Some ladies helped me, and the tables looked great. A lady out of the restaurant business that helps me too, and it just looked perfect. So we kind of did our job right, and it was such a relief when she came with the food. The lady that was kind of the one, the caterer type background, that I could just back off. And I want to stand in that kitchen and tell them where to put everything, and I want to stand in the kitchen and tell them where all the spoons are and everything else, and I'll tell them that. But then I'm going to get out of the way. It was such a relief. And I used not to be able to do that.
Yeah.
So how do you encourage people to step outside their personality type?
Well, one thing you think of is that it's temporary.
Yes.
And that helps. Okay, I can do this for a little while.
Correct.
But it's exhausting.
Yes.
And that's where that energy profile comes from. You use your energy that way, and it's natural for me to talk in front of a group or get up on the stage. But
where that other people, and that's like one of the biggest fears, like 90% of the people.
90% of the people.
More than a fire is speaking in front of a group of people.
That's right.
But yet you have the natural gift.
That's right. I want to do that.
Yes.
And
you get energy. When you're looking in the crowd, you're not looking at grumpy faces. You're looking at the smiley face. You're looking at the one that's liking what you're saying, and they get energy from that.
That's right.
Even though maybe, at least in my case, a couple minutes before I get on the stage, I'm like, why did I agree to do this? I could have been doing something else.
I did that for a day.
Exactly. And then all of a sudden you're up there and it's like, well, no problem. We got it.
No problem.
We know what we're talking about. So go ahead. I'm sorry. Interrupt.
Where were we?
We're talking about when we sometimes have to step out of what.
Oh, yeah, because you can do it. And that's what that cheat sheet is that I have. It says blending and capitalizing.
Gotcha.
And so there's a list you do for each.
So is that cheat sheet available somewhere, like on the internet or somewhere they could contact you?
They can contact me.
Can you give a quick email address? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Is that okay? Go ahead.
Yeah. dmbrown4@gmail.com.
Do it again, please.
dmbrown4@gmail.com.
Very good. Thank you. So we're going to take another quick break. This is Clint Day from St. Simon's Island, Georgia, 1100 a.m. We'll be right back. All right, two more. 7 minutes.
More?
2 more 7 minutes. All right, ready? Welcome back to Sweet Truth and Love with Clint Day from St. Simon's Island, Georgia. I'm here today with Debbie Brown, and we've covered the D and the I pretty good on the disc profile. Let's talk a little bit more about that S. Tell us more about the S.
Okay, the S is the one that will lead from the back. They like to be in the background. They don't like for you to call attention to them. If you're going to thank them, go up and tell them how great a job they're doing. Don't give a party or a prize or anything, where the D and the I would love that.
Mm-hmm.
The S and the C, don't put me in front. And I teach Discover Purpose at Community Church, and I have Carol, who is my SC, and she does that part for me behind the scenes. She's always got my copies ready. She's got the internet up and ready to go. She makes the PowerPoint. I mean, she does all that for me. We're a perfect team because I don't want to do that. That's harder. I can because my C is over the midline on the graph.
Right.
But Carol's way high in that. And so she does that, and she doesn't want to go up front. And I do.
Absolutely.
So, and that's what you do. You pull together people in a group, and that's what we talked about, with the volunteers.
Yes.
Is to see that you have people and you know who's good at what, and you can pull them around. So the S likes to lead from the back. They're quiet. They like one-on-one, not in a big group. They're very, very unlikely to speak up, but they'll go to somebody and tell them.
Gotcha.
And they're very loyal, steadfast. Some of the S's live in one house for 35 years.
Right.
I've moved 14 times.
Absolutely. I understand. Yes.
And they like to stay in their house. They keep their car. Change is very difficult for them. And so they have to be lured into change. You have
Okay.
to tell them something and let them sit on it, and then ask them another question and let them sit on it, rather than going in and saying, "I got a great idea.
Exactly.
This is what we're going to do,"
Another
and they
one of
run.
those. Absolutely, another one of those. All right. So, what would be a weakness of an S?
The S is slow to change even when it's necessary.
Mm-hmm.
And so they'll push back and hang on to something.
Give us an example of that.
Let's say you come in and say, we've got a new boss, and he wants to go in this direction. The S may keep working the old way and be silently angry that they're not being appreciated by doing the old
Can they
way.
undermine?
They can, yeah, in a quiet way.
Correct.
If they believe that it's what should be done. And I would say their biggest issue is adapting to change.
Gotcha.
And knowing that things are different now, and things change all the time.
Absolutely.
So it's very difficult for them.
Yeah, very good. And then how about the C? Let's talk a little bit more about the C.
Okay. The C is the process. You know, we talked about you want your surgeon to be a DC because they're quick to make decisions. They can spin on a dime if they have to, but the C follows the protocol. And so those two together, criminal lawyer, DC, because they can hear what's being done and change on a dime, you know. But they know the rules, and they know the issues, and they go step by step by step. So that C is going to be the one that knows the rule. They typically pick the law and medicine and anywhere where, in research, you know, where there are very clear boundaries and protocols to follow.
How can someone learn to identify the type of personality they're dealing with?
You do the DISC profile and you learn about it a little bit. And that's what I would do in classes. I would ask them, I always did it in my classes, Intro to Business. I had one student say, "This is the most important thing I learned in college."
Wow. I would agree with that. I would understand
he
that.
did.
Yeah.
And one of the things is that is that I taught them, you learn the 4 types, you read about it, and then I had them make a team and work with people that were different from them. Okay, so during that 13-week semester, they could, you know, get some experience with it. And then they had to map out an approach to somebody that was different, and they had to tell me how they identified that in the other person. And there are cues. I mean, I've got that handout that Amy Fritchman made, actually, that we use in Discover Purpose that says, here's what you look for, here's what it is, and the cheat sheet says, here's how you deal with it.
Right. Tell us about the Discover Purpose class. When is that held? And
we do
can anybody come to that?
Yeah, anybody at community church. Well, anybody can. We hold it at community church, and we do spiritual gifts and the DISC profile. It's 3 nights. We'll be doing it in January, the last 3 Wednesday nights in January at the St. Simon's campus. And then in August, we'll be doing it over in Brunswick. And we've done it maybe 6 times.
And what night of the week is that again?
Wednesdays.
Wednesday nights. And what time roughly? Roughly.
Justin just told me this 2 days ago.
6:37.
Usually we're 6 to 7:45.
Okay, gotcha.
That's the way it's been in the past.
That's good. Okay, good. You know, I was wondering why my high D told me on the Sabbat class that I was leaving at 7:30, and I left at 7:30. I didn't know I was supposed to be there till 7:45. But I was like, I got things I got to do. That's the politician in me, too. I'm sitting by the door. You notice at church, I sit by the door. If I have to get out of this building quick, I can. You know? So anyway.
You are a D.
Yeah, absolutely. No doubt about it. Thank you. No, thank you. But it really is good. And then you go to spiritual characters and stuff. I've been told kind of like a Solomon and kind of like a Paul. I mean, I love evangelism. I love building things, always many years have. And so I'm so grateful, for how God allows those biblical characters even to come into play. Do you talk about that
Oh,
some?
yeah.
Okay, awesome. I'm going to have to take your class. I'm going to have to figure out.
Yeah, you should.
I want to encourage y'all out there to go take this class. Help you
Please
find your purpose. And their purpose can change, right? Purpose can change
Absolutely,
in certain stages of
yes.
life, but you don't quit. You keep going. God's got a plan. He's got something he wants you to do. It's not around sitting and watching Netflix and TV all the time.
That's for sure.
So we're going to take another quick break. This is Clint Day from Speak the Truth in Love. We'll be right back. Very good job. One more segment.
One more time. Okay.
Welcome back to Speak the Truth in Love with Clint Day from St. Simon's Island, Georgia. I'm here today with Debbie Brown. It's been an honor to talk to you today, and I've just really enjoyed our conversation to learn more about us as people. And so what are some other things that you'd want to talk to people about finding that purpose?
Finding that purpose. Well, the spiritual gifts is really big. And we also talk about how Jesus, he knows you from the womb to the tomb.
Mm-hmm.
He made you in his image,
Mm-hmm.
and he put you in this time.
Mm-hmm.
And so I love helping people find that, because people helped me find that, over my spiritual maturity just up to this point.
Absolutely. Well, how do people know that they may not be exercising their spiritual gift?
You come to my class.
Okay.
And you learn what yours are.
Okay.
And then we give you some steps to take. Like, what would be the next thing for you to do if you have the gift of, like, my favorite one is pastor.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And I had one.
Mine's administration. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Understandably. But okay,
Yeah.
go ahead.
But even though you're good at it at
Yeah.
work, you might not
Right.
have a spiritual gift, but you do.
Right. It's so easy. It just makes
That's
sense to me. But
awesome.
go ahead.
Okay, and one guy said, I'm not a pastor, because he thought that meant you have a church.
You like people. You want to be a pastor.
Yeah, and that you
shepherd,
and stand
shepherd.
up, and
Right,
he was
right.
a high S.
Yes.
He works at a department store in Brunswick, and people come up to him in the store and ask him to pray for them.
Isn't that amazing?
I said, you're a pastor.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't look like you may think it does,
Right.
And it may not be the way you thought it would be.
Right. But how about other signs of why you might not be in your purpose? A little frustration.
Oh,
I just
gosh,
don't have
yeah.
peace with what's going on.
Yes, or
I can't-
depression.
And I wake up in the morning and I'm going, why am I doing this job? I just don't feel right here.
Mm-hmm.
So what should somebody do if they're
Pray.
feeling that? Okay.
You pray.
Read the word.
Read the word. And when I prayed, when I came down here, I didn't finish my story. I left NC State, and my daughter said, I'm going to have a baby, and it's due in March, and in June, Larry and I were down here.
Absolutely.
we had a place here.
There's purpose right there.
There it is.
There's some clear purpose.
That's
I am
right.
telling you to move to where your grandbabies are.
That's right.
That's awesome.
That is awesome. And I wasn't finished with teaching spiritual gifts, so I went to CCGA, and I worked there. But then I was sitting there. Nobody was asking me to do anything down here. And I've always been active in the church like you were. But they didn't know me, And I prayed and said, God, you're not using me where you should.
Exactly.
I'm telling him.
Absolutely.
And then I said, oh, that's wrong. I said, I'm telling you what to do with me. I said, oh, now I see the teaching is all about me. I wanted it for myself.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. And I was looking out at the marsh, and this big white egret landed in front of me, looked at me, and then went straight up, like taking my confession to heaven.
Wow.
It was fabulous.
Like an angel. Wow.
And that day, Justin called me and said, we want you to teach Discover Purpose.
Praise God.
Praise God.
Yeah, praise
and
God.
I had months of nothing
Right.
until I knew
So,
I had to.
amen. It comes back to find a need and fill it, right? My dad used to always talk about that. Find a need and fill it. He's paying all this money at the Holiday Inn with 2 rooms because 5 kids. And he's like, this is too expensive. So he comes up with the idea of building Days Inn, and the term budget luxury came about. And, the rest is history. And again, find a need and fill it. If there's a need in your church, like one of the needs I have personally is knowing more end times prophecy. And I'm asking, Lord, please help our church to teach a real series on that and that type of thing, praying about that. but of course I'm doing it in my own Bible study.
There you go.
I'm doing it in my own Bible study. So if you have a desire to do something and you have a spiritual gift, as she was stating, and you're in a church or in any organization, be willing to use that spiritual gift and say yes. Now, a lot of times we need to say no, but we'll know in our heart that God is stirring us to get involved. And I'm just so excited that God brought you to our church and is teaching that, because, again, so many people are in places they really don't belong. They're frustrated. They're not feeling that satisfaction. When I run, I feel God's pleasure. And what is it that you feel God's pleasure? What do you do when you're out there in the world? What gives you pleasure to carry out? You know this is what God wants you to do, and being willing to take the risk to do it. So many people, my word from Living Well last year was fear. Mm-hmm. And it was interesting to me. I'm going, well, fear, what is that about? And I realized a lot of my fear was even the preparation for doing these videos and doing the podcast, doing the radio program. A friend of mine just said, hey, let's do this. Let's do this some radio. And all of a sudden the opportunity, let's do some video with it. And then all of a sudden the right people, God brings the right people. Mm-hmm. And you have people a lot of times that are already helping you that have additional talents, like our friend Wayne here, who really has talent that can help me in ways that I didn't even think about. It took someone else to tell me, well, maybe he's your guy to help you with that additional thing you want to do. And so go ahead, anything else you want to say?
No, it's the same thing with Discover Purpose. We were looking for a way to build a team.
Yes.
And some people said, hey, I'm interested in that. And God pulled together, we've got 1 D, 2 I's, 2 C's, and an S. And so we have all of them there, and we know about it. And so we're able to speak together and listen.
That's right. That's great. Mm-hmm. Well, Debbie, I know you and I have in common the number one thing we know: to really find your purpose, you got to surrender your life to Jesus Christ.
Amen.
So anybody out there, we've lived a life of our independence. We understand what it's all about. We've had times where we didn't really listen to God. We just truly do want you to listen to God, because he's got the best purpose and the best plan for your life. And again, I'd like to thank all our friends for listening to us today. And thank you again, Debbie, for joining us. And I thank everyone from WCGA 1100 AM for their encouragement in life. And remember, every day is a God day.
Amen.
Thank you.